There we are. I think we're going. There we are. Yeah, we're live. I'm seeing it on my iPhone right now. Cool. Well, welcome to the second LA Guitar Hang live stream, as we'll call it. Because it's all about the hang, right? So let's see if you can hear my audio, which looks like you can. I'm just going to raise it just a bit. And here's my guitar. Seems like that's going through. Cool. Awesome. I'm actually going to raise my guitar volume just a hair on the UA console. So today, to whoever's watching, oh here, Guitar Hang number 2. Yo, 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 you're live, yeah. Your neighbor is blasting Metallica right now. Awesome. I love Metallica. I just, how do you say it? They have channel 40 on Sirius XM is now, looks to be now the Metallica channel. So I saved channel 40 because I love Metallica. So today I wanted to talk about Fretboard Harmony, as they called it at Berkeley summer sessions for guitar. And a lot of it is like moving around the fretboard and seeing triads and seeing how you can play these really cool chords by sometimes switching it up a bit and how the note placement is and where the notes combine and everything like that. So on Tuesday, I uploaded a video called How to Dominate the Fretboard, and I talked about these things somewhat in depth, but more so summaries, right, of knowing every note on the fretboard, because you want to be able to not really think when you're playing, right? And as you know, as you figure out what these scales and what these chord tones are, by knowing all the notes on the fretboard, you realize that sometimes you're just half step away from the right note, right? So like if we were playing like Sugar-E, just by going from E to D sharp, which is the third degree of B, I just change chords. Or from going from this B major lick by going from A to G sharp, I just transition from B major to E major, right? So that's like how knowing all the notes on the fretboard works, because you want to have ultimate freedom and not really think of patterns. Patterns are great. We've all started with patterns. But the faster you get out of patterns, right, and just start seeing notes, you can end up playing like 3-octave major scale. Right? So that's why knowing notes works as opposed to knowing shapes, right? Because, like I said in the video, the guitar, you can see it like the white keys on the piano. All the white keys on the piano equal C major / A minor. So why can't the guitar be the same? If someone says we're in the key of G, you should be able to just play every G major note around the guitar, whether or not it's in order. On one string, couple strings, etc., etc., etc. Triads are also crucial because when you're playing these changes in Grateful Dead music, depends what triad you play can influence what scale or what area of the pattern you're playing. So you're playing this B, which is called B second inversion, because the F sharp is in the root. So you have F sharp, B, D sharp, which is the third. You could play your B mixed Lydian scale right here. Right? At which point you could also say, I want to go to this B first inversion or root position, right? And now you just switch positions. Right? And then you're, again, switching positions by triads. Okay, a little comment's happening. Let's see what's happening before we continue. Rick, what's up, dude? I believe Marty Friedman says you're always a half step above or below the right note. I say that quote, Upward Ninja, all the time. Thank you for doing like having a second rut. Oh, that's awesome to hear, Justin. Yeah, we've all been in ruts. I've been in a rut lately as well. So when I play FIFA at night, I am watching Metallica shows and like Megadeth shows to change it up. I want to see Metallica. They're playing in San Francisco in December. That would be a cool show to see. Are you doing that by memorizing notes of G chords or by hitting the various shapes or a G chord? Oh, of a G chord. Both. It's not really memorizing. So how I describe that, CJ, is you really want to know what's happening in, for example, if we're in G. So that's also where comes like circle of fifths and knowing how many sharps or flats are in a scale. Because memorizing sometimes implies that you're just trying to figure it out for a test tomorrow, right? Which is not the case. This is something that you really want to internalize and know that G major only has one sharp, and that's from that E to a whole step to F sharp half step to G. So by knowing all the notes on the fretboard, I can just avoid every other note and just make sure when I play an F, I'm making an F sharp. Right? At that point also, CJ, that could also dictate where your triads are, because if you see this triad here, that could mean you could play a scale like this, or you can see the triad here and you're playing this type of scale. Both G major scales, just different notes at different places, which we'll get to in the next point with the tips you shared on playing Eyes. That's awesome, Joe. Yeah, Eyes is a great one. Wow, you're really giving this out. I see. Lessons. Yeah, I do lessons. I listen every week. And we can go more in depth. The last video, I almost said if you want lessons, let me know, because there was so much more we can talk about that I didn't want to give everything. But today we'll talk about some roadmap and how I see the fretboard. Well, I should do that right now. So how can you expand your fretboard thinking, right? How can you visualize a pentatonic scale, for example, rather than just how can you really play that all over the fretboard? Well, you could think of it as like a Roman, how I think of it. If we play 4 notes in this pentatonic scale, which has 5 notes, if we play G, B flat, C, D, right? Our next note in this scale is the F, right? At which point it's all up to you to decide, do you want to play this F on the 3rd fret of the D string, or do you want to play this F on the 8th fret of the A string, right? So if we go 8th fret of the A string, now we've already switched positions basically. Next note being G, which is the octave. You have 2 G's around you. You have G on the 5th fret of the D string, or you have G on the 10th fret of the A string. Right now we're in a totally different octave, which leads you to the next point. The next note is B flat. If you're playing this G on the 10th fret with your ring finger, B flat is right here on the 8th fret with your index finger. Right? And then now you're in this G on the 12th fret of the G string. Right? As opposed to playing it, you play it. Right? And if you're in this G on the 12th fret of the B string, you can play your pentatonic like that, or play 12 on G, 11, 13 on B, 10, 13, 15 on the high E string. And there we just did 3 octaves. And there's the same position. Right? So that kind of stuff, as well as doing it descending. Stuff like that. Let's see questions. I remember you said the Les Paul 100 was your first guitar. Yeah, Epiphone Les Paul 100. Oh, I'm max clipping. Epiphone Les Paul 100, Upward Ninja, was my first guitar. Because I saw School of Rock and Zach Mooneyham was playing that guitar. Well, he was playing a Gibson, but I didn't know what Gibson was at the time. So when I went to Music and Arts in Sterling, Virginia, where I'm from, I saw the Epiphone Les Paul 100 and thought to myself that was the guitar he was playing. So it was that and a Line 6 Spider 3 or Spider 4, one of those two. Had the clean, crunch, metal, and insane settings. That's where I learned how to play everything first starting off. And then maybe when I was like 14 or 15, that's when I got the greatest amp in the world, the Fender Hot Rod Deluxe, which I still have to this day. It's right over there. It's all stock except for the speaker change, which I put a Two Rock 1265 speaker, because I had it, and during lockdown I was really bored, and I said I'll put it in my Hot Rod Deluxe. Little did I know it was a pain to change that speaker in that cabinet. Got to take the whole chassis out. Oh my god. I'm assuming it's Mason. What's up? You're using a Apollo? Yeah, I am using my Apollo. I'm still figuring everything out. I got a webcam yesterday, but it didn't impress me. the color wasn't that good as opposed to the FaceTime camera. So back to guitaring. You can do the exact same idea of figuring out the next note when it comes also to like the major scale. So you can play, let's say 5 notes, right? We're in this D, next note being E, as opposed to playing the E on the 2nd fret of the D string, right? Now we can do F sharp right there, and we already switched positions. Right? So it's all up almost like playing these notes in maybe 3 or 5 note increments and figuring out where's the next note and seeing it where on the fretboard. If it's on the same string, 1 fret or a couple of frets higher, you can do that, or on the next string, because that'll really dictate, do you move across or up and down the fretboard to a different location? Which is something that they taught at Berklee in a different way, but I really didn't get it until after. At which point you start practicing that, then you have more freedom and you start seeing, wow, a lot of these scales are just the exact same thing, just starting on different notes, right? So like if we look at Sugary, which is I call it a Dorian, mixed Lydian, right? Because it's B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A natural, B. This B mixed Lydian scale is the exact same thing as E major. B in E major is the 5th degree, C sharp is the 6th, D sharp is the 7th, E is the root. Right? But that's also because this D sharp is not in this like A position, even though A is like the passing chord. You could almost think that A is like Phrygian because that's sharp 4, which is that D sharp. Right? Sharp 4. And then you take that same knowledge everywhere else. Here's your B mixed Lydian scale. Which is the same thing as E major, starting from the 5th degree. So it's seeing stuff like that. Or like in Althea, another great one, you could say it's B Dorian because if the chords are B minor, A, E, this G sharp in this E major chord is not in the key of, is not in this B minor, right? B minor scale is B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G. So we have to make it a Dorian scale by raising this flat 6th degree to a major 6th, G sharp. Right? So at that point it works in the B minor, A, and E progression. What streaming software? OBS, Mason. I'm trying OBS. It's free. And I got to figure out so far where I have my starting scene and then my transition into this stream. And the last point, we talked about scales, talked about triads. The last point is sometimes drop 2 chords are really fun. Where drop 2 chords is just 7th chords but on the top 4 strings, right? But how you can think of them is pretty simple. Like if here, right, is your C major triad, open G, 1st fret of the B string C, and open E. If we now put our middle finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, we still have a C major chord, right? If we put our finger our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the high E string, we still have a C major chord, right? But now we put our pinky finger on this 4th fret of the G string, that B flat. Sorry, this B natural. We now have a C major 7, right? To make it a minor 7, all we do is just flat this B to a B flat. Make it a dominant 7, sorry. To make it a minor 7, we just make this E and E flat, right? And then when you have those same chords, you can really mix them around. So like if your C major chord is right here, instead of playing this version of a C major 7 where the major 7 is the 7th fret of the high E string, why not put the major 7 12th fret of the B string, right? Make it a dominant 7, lower this, right? If you want to play a C minor major 7, here's your C minor, but put that 12th fret pinky on the B string, and there's your minor chord with a major 7th degree, right? So stuff like that, where you don't have to play so much like the book says, but experiment. Figure out these weird voicings where notes are clashing like that. Right, those on the piano are right next to each other, which creates a little bit of tension. I feel Jerry plays a lot more scale focused than John. Who is more melodic? Are there scale sequences you practice? I think they're both. It's very melodic. I'm going to throw in Trey from Fare Thee Well shows because he was incredibly melodic. And if you look at performances like Throwing Stones from Fare Thee Well, he's saying everything he wants to say by just aiming for these A major triad shapes. And he's still killing a solo, which is crazy. Sometimes John, more than Jerry, will create a story going low to high sometimes. Where Jerry, like I was looking at a Sugar from yesterday, he plays very similar, will change positions to make the notes frequency be higher, but still pretty dynamic, which I really like a lot. On the scale sequence you practice to get the Jerry vibe. Yes, not really sequences, but patterns, right? Sometimes patterns of 4, I think it is. Like that if we're doing G mixed Lydian. Or to go to B. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. You need to do 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stuff like that, even descending also. Stuff like that. Because there's a cool one where in Bertha, if you're doing the transition, the right from that A minor. Stuff like that. Also, a cool sequence I like from Garcia is that Scarlet transition to Fire. This you can apply to a lot of songs. Right? So like a B major jam. Yeah. There's solos where Jerry would shred and then just play the melody, which is really, really cool. There's a Peggy O. I'm not a big Peggy O fan, but there was one a student showed me where he does that same thing, where he shreds the solo and then just brings it all back to the melody. Is it okay to run up and down scales when you're out of ideas? Yeah. Yeah, even when starting out, don't be afraid to be so robotic sometimes, because that is sometimes what makes you say the most without stressing what you're saying, right? It's better to say something the same than say something where you don't know where it's going. So if someone says to you, "How was your day?" and you repeat, "Oh, it was good. I had lunch, walked the dog," etc., right? As opposed to saying, "Oh, it was great. I did this. I did something else. I played PlayStation. I did something else." So the listener doesn't know what you did during the day. So scales are perfect. Eric, what's up? I'm driving my kids around now. Classic. So that's like a preview of Fretboard Harmony, how I think of the fretboard. There was a video by a guitar brand a couple of months ago when they talked about how to break out of the box, and the video was so bad that really, like, how do you say, really made me think of how I explain it also to make it super clear. Now I'm driving my kids too, playing on the car stereo. Classic. So all this, like I tell my students, is like, you don't have to rush when practicing this. There is no race. There is no medal for the person who can play the whole pentatonic scale super fast, like an Eric Johnson or whatever. If you can, that's cool. But slow and steady. Wins the race. Right? Even with major scale. Where am I? Oh, B. Right? Then you can start implementing like arpeggios. Right? Major arpeggios. Stuff like that. The more things you can open up the fretboard, the better you are. Because also, in like a Grateful Dead context, when you're looking at these songs and you have 3 or 4 solos, how can you make those 3 or 4 solos tell a story that goes from pretty low dynamic wise to super high? Right? Because if you're soloing on the second solo up here, there's really nowhere you can go for the 4th solo, right? So it's all about pacing yourself. Right? Second solo could be around here. Right? Third solo can be right? Fourth solo, if you have the chance. Then you go high, right? Put on the tube screamer and really take that crescendo and really blow up the stadium and go crazy. Steven, hey, do you check out the show last night? Of course. I watched every show so far. I thought it was a great show. I really thought it was maybe one of the best shows of the tour so far. That Dark Star was incredible. It was really, really good, that Dark Star. Playing the band was great. Uncle John's band was great. It Hurts Me Too was great with the Silver 594 from PRS. It was all around a great show, I think. Hopefully today, I heard from a buddy who's there, they were sound checking Terrapin. So I'm sure we'll get Terrapin because we haven't got Terrapin in a while. Hoping today we'll get like a Scarlet Fire as well. Maybe Help on the Way. That could be too much. I don't know. But it's Friday. And Friday is fun. What is Jerry's go-to method when playing lead? Besides triads, I know it depends on the song, but does he tend to stay more Candyland sound? Kind of. In my opinion, I think. Again, let me reiterate. I don't think I do a lot reiterating this, but I don't transcribe a lot of Garcia solos because I don't want to be an exact clone of his. I've only transcribed a handful of his solos. I like more figuring them out, what's happening, and then playing it how I would, which is a lot of what I do in my Theory is Dead videos. But mixed Lydian is a lot of the stuff that's happening in Grateful Dead music. But like I said, it's, how would you say, it's sometimes it's more than one scale happening, which sometimes ends up to be mixed Lydian. For like example, Eyes of the World, right? This progression, E major 7 to B minor. Well, if you're playing E major 7, right, over the E major 7 chord, and go to B minor and play this D sharp, right, or this G sharp, right, to keep it like E major. This G sharp is now the major 6th degree of B minor, right? And then this D sharp now becomes a D natural in B minor. So you could really say it's like a B Dorian, but this B Dorian also ends up being E mixed Lydian because it has E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D natural, E. So stuff like that. If that made sense. Sorry, She's Life. That kind of so explanation. I was at Saratoga and the Cumberland Blues was unbelievable. Yeah, that was a fast one. Dark Star El Paso. Yeah, Joe. I'm still waiting for I think it was the third part of that transition, Me and Bobby McGee, which I don't think they'll ever play, unfortunately. Same with Unbroken Chain. Unbroken Chain, I wish they would play. That would be so cool to see Mayer on those changes. And the whole vamp. That'd be so cool, and the chords are killer on that song. I wish they would still do Box of Rain more. Box of Rain's a weird song. A lot of weird chords in that song. Because one chord is A minor. Next bar it's A major. It doesn't really make sense. So yeah, that's Fretboard Harmony for you guys today. Again, I go a lot more in depth with this stuff in lessons. So if you are interested in lessons, you can email me. The email is linked below in my YouTube videos. I had never really heard Black Money River until this tour, and now it's my favorite song. That's a great song. that's a great one. They've been doing really good help slip fine these days. Scarlett's been killer. Cumberland, that SPAC one was really fast. It was awesome. But I wish they would speed it up a little bit. Yesterday was pretty good. And then, like, my only complaint is that sometimes the solos are too long when they're not in a jamming context, I'll say. Because one thing is to jam, one thing is to solo. Bertha sounds pretty boring after Mayer is doing his 6th runaround up here. For like the 5th time. Because at this point, you're already up here. Where else can you go? You can only really go down. So I do wish, in my opinion, they would slow some of the solos down to couple choruses, because you kind of lose interest and they're saying the same thing. And again, for me, is the whole dynamic thing. If they're already ending up so high, where else can they go from that? You have to come back down to go back high. Johnny Beck, rock on, mate. Thank you. I'm trying to. But it is Friday. So we're doing this. I'm watching the Dead Show, going for a walk, going out for dinner, playing FIFA. So it's turning out to be a great Friday. Steven, what's your process like for learning Dead songs? How long does it usually take for a song? Depends what I'm trying to do with it, Steven. If I'm trying to write my own solo, it could take a couple days because I want to listen to different versions and from different people. So Garcia, my go-tos are Garcia, Trey, and Mayer, as well as occasionally Jeff Matheson from Dark Star Orchestra. I like seeing what other people do, how they approach it. So if I'm doing that, like for a video, it'll take me a couple days. But in general, it's listening to a song a bunch so you know how it's supposed to sound and you know the vibe of it. And then you can get it online, called the Jerry Garcia Songbook. It's a huge PDF. It's like 450 pages, I think. And it has all the chord changes and the lyrics. And whether you like it or not, you should sometimes sing with the recording and by yourself with the words in front of you, because that'll give you a great sense of how it'll be played live if you do play live, right? So if you're playing a Sugaree, do the whole thing. First solo. Do the second verse, the whole second verse again. Second solo. Right, third verse. So by the end, after maybe 10 minutes, you played a whole song and done 3 or 4 solos, and bada bing, bada boom. So stuff like that, and then I'll watch these versions of people doing it, how they climb up to more dynamics, and really take it really, really slow. What's your takes on Bob's place in the mix and his tone. His tone is really bright. I think everyone knows that. But he fits in really nicely for his parts. I mean, I tell a lot of people as well is jam with Wolf Bros, right? They have their concerts on YouTube, or like jam with that Wolf Bros on NPR. They're tuned down in E flat. So that changes, obviously, your tuning. But if you can jam with that, you're basically playing, in Grateful Dead, because there's no lead guitar. So there's a ton of space for you to do what you do. It also forces you to really think about what's happening, because you don't know the cues. So you have to watch very closely and listen very closely to try and land when they're changing songs or cueing to some other part in the same song. So again, to answer your question, Bob is great in the mix. Yesterday, he was a bit out of tune on some guitars. Maybe because there are new strings. I'm not sure. But his tone his rig is very complex for a very bright tone. He uses like those Friedman cabs, the UA aux, the UA pedals. He uses also those Vox Night Train amps. They're like $60 or like $160, I think. Sorry. That are like lunchbox amps. They're like 50 watts. They're cool. I mean, they're something. Steven asked about the P just the other day. How accurate are the chords you say? Oh, they're pretty accurate. They're pretty accurate. Now the next part is to see where are these people playing it, right? For example, one that I use pretty often is like Help on the Way. If you look at Mayer, he plays it for the F on the 3rd fret of the D string. Right? And then he does this. He does dominant 7, right? Where Jerry, I think, would do major 7 as opposed to right. And Jerry also plays the riff right here, I think. But it's pretty accurate. It's just up to you to how do you want to play it, right? Because it doesn't say, for example, like in Ramble on a Rose, it doesn't say, in Althea, it doesn't say, I don't think, it has a walk up. Bum, 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 bum. And like, where do you play that D? Here or power chord? It's all up to you. BB King box, it's clutch and sugar. It really is. watching Bob slap so much string. Yeah, he does like he gets the string goes on his whammy bar, which is really funny, and then it goes out of tune. So yeah, does anyone have any last moment questions before we end today? It's really fun. Got a lot of things covered, and a great topic, fretboard, which is very important, obviously, because that's what you're playing on. Because like the ultimate goal with everybody that I talk to and teach is, the more you know what's happening here in scales and chords and notes on the fretboard, the more freedom you have, which will then lead to less thinking with what you're doing, if that makes sense. And it's all about just taking it slow. There's no one racing you to do this. Taking it your own time, then applying it in some music, right? Get the looper, loop something. Right? You can play something like that over 2 chords, implement 3 chords and 4 chords, and then you can end up soloing over like Brown Eye One, which is really fast. It's pretty hard to do. Or like Deal, that's a tongue twister for soloing. That's a really hard one. So yeah, we'll hang out for another couple minutes or so, and we'll all head out and tune into YouTube to watch Dead & Co. from Boston. I saw Dead & Co. in Boston 6 times. 2016, both nights at Fenway Park. 2017, both nights at Fenway Park. And then winter 2017, both nights at the TD Garden, which is a great show. The Fenway Park shows were way better, I think. They were insane. Waiting in line for like 5 hours. Thankfully, I lived right behind Fenway Park. So the commute was pretty easy. Just leave like 10 minutes before lining up and wait. The TD Garden shows on the other hand were incredible. I was so lucky to get both days. And almost both days my seats were identical area-wise. Stephen Nash, last one for me. I know the notes in the board quite well, but feel I'm lacking the speed of getting them. Any notes? Yeah, Stephen, you can go. I tell people you can do one of 2 ways, like in my video. You can go individually, right, and say them however fast you want on the strings, like E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, B, B flat, B, C sharp, or C, like that. Or as well, doing it across the fingerboard, so you're not relying on octaves or patterns, right? Like just bar the 5th fret, and what are all those notes, right? A, D, G, C, E, A. Now let's go to the 10th fret. D, G, C, F, A, D, and go somewhere else, like vice versa, like that. But as long as you know the half steps, B and C and E and F, you're pretty golden. And then just maybe implementing scales on 1 string or only 2 strings, for example, right? So you just get out of the norm of playing a specific pattern, but you do it on 2 strings, so then you realize you can move around, and then you're really thinking, where's my next note? Could be here, right? If that made sense, Stephen. Hopefully it did. So, all right, guys. thank you all for watching. Second LA Guitar Hang. Next week, there may not be one. We're going to a wedding in Virginia. We leave Thursday. So maybe I'll do one before going. We'll see. If I don't, I'll make a post and we'll catch up on the 17th. So in 2 weeks, maybe. But I will let you all know in the YouTube community area. And I'll post a photo, whether or not we're having a stream. So yeah. So thank you all for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Last video is already at like 1,000 views, which is awesome. Everything's growing slowly. We're getting better at all this. We've introduced live streams, which is new to me. So next step, we'll just grow on this and go to the next level. And yeah, I'm still figuring out the audio, the guitar audio, and scenes and all that on OBS software. So again, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys either next week or in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.